All right, well, today's project, well, start of today's video, I should say, is a fun little project. We're going to build one of these. What is one of these used for? This is the inside brace that holds the headlight bucket of the front fender. I have one of them, headlight bracket. 55, 6, and 7 are all slightly unique and different. These are, I got this one actually in a pile of miscellaneous Tri-5 parts. It's from Dan Chuck. And it's all kind of rusty and stuff like that. But anyways, they're hard to find right now, they're expensive, and just the way the world, we're just gonna build one. Now this is obviously stamped in one piece. We're gonna build it in 2 pieces, but ultimately the effect should be the same. So we got some scrap, probably 18 gauge. So we're gonna start by tracing it out. See what we end up with. So this right here is a throatless shear, which I got off Amazon a couple of years ago. And it's a cool little tool for doing exactly this. You can kind of work on basically any size metal you want. And it just gets you into the rough kind of shape. You can form it as you go. Or twist it, I should say, as you go, and kind of form the cut. So it's really handy. They sell kind of versions that are like this at like Princess Auto or Harbor Freight and whatnot. Oh, I've buggered it. But yeah, this thing has paid for itself a couple times over. Just a little chunk out of the way. So we'll rough cut it out. We'll be back at the bench. All right, so we got the inner bit. We obviously got to clean up in there. We'll do it with the grinder. It's so thin in there, I want to have my other piece welded on for some strength. So now what we got to do is bend this thing around. We should have enough material. Really, it's not that much. So my thought was clamp this down to the table, get this kind of flush, and just bend it around it. Use it as a guide. So I got a few clamps. Okay, so we got the 2 pieces cut out. Just kind of flatten this just a little bit. Not too bad. So now this kind of has a bit of a goofy fit. Had a bit of overhang. I mean, again, we're just eyeballing here at this point. So let's see if we can get this tacked together. this over just a little bit. So I had this originally traced out. Now, I was thinking I just flipped around the backside and trace it, but that changes the mount hole. Now, then I started thinking, well, what if the mount hole is mirrored on the other headlight bucket, which may be a reality. I don't have any headlight buckets. So I think what I'm gonna do, I ground it down a little bit. I am gonna put this on. I'm gonna trace it, but try and do more of a kind of circle look to it. At the bottom, it's all irrelevant. Get it lined up. So like here, kind of here, but then around here, I'm thinking I'll just kind of do that. And then I can grind in there, do whatever I gotta do with a Dremel once it's on the car. But we're pretty close. Like I said, I don't even have headlight buckets yet, so here we go. You know, as I was grinding, I thought to myself, it just says headlight bracket. It doesn't say left or right, which makes me think they're identical. So, we'll just put the flap wheel on and cut it to size here. So at the end of the day, that's the one I built. That's the factory one. So a little nicer on the stamping, but it works. It'll hold a headlight. I'd like to find some buckets, but at the end of the day, if I just gotta tack them in for now and deal with it later, so be it. Be nice to have them done though before paint, because I mean you weld it on this side, which isn't too bad, but this top piece, I'd like to put a couple of tack welds, whoops, right up in there just to hold it in place. But it only kind of goes one way. It does have to be sandwiched up against this bottom piece. So I think it'll be all right. We'll figure it out. But that's it for right now. I got to charge the battery and we'll be back out doing body work. So it has been a few days since we were working on the headlight kind of inner bucket structure there. Got that taken care of. I've been lazy. Well, not lazy. I've been having trouble getting motivated to work on this thing, and I'm going to force myself into it. So we've got the other side of the car kind of done. The roof's kind of done. The hood's not too bad. The real rough parts are going to be this fender door and the tailgate. I think we're going to try and get this fender and this door done today. So I haven't touched these at all since I put them in high build. So this line needs to be touched up a little bit, but not as bad as the other side. The rest of the fender actually looks not too bad. The door, I guess we'll find out what it looks like. So before I go too crazy, obviously I'm gonna have to scuff the panel down before I can load it up with filler. I thought I would just give the whole thing a coat of guide coat and kind of start blocking it down so the filler is something to grab onto. And at the same time, we'll see where that filler needs to be. Well, I can already feel there's a low spot right there. So that's the plan for today. We'll get this kind of sprayed on, block it off real quick, and a lot of filler on and filler off. And then hopefully, I know a few people are asking, my buddy's gonna come by and help me out. He still will, I'm sure, but I wanted it to be as good as I can make it myself. Just trying to challenge myself, I guess, a little bit. So, enjoy the bitter lapsing sanding montage you're about to see. So, as you saw on the high speed, we started kind of giving her down. Obviously, we start off with kind of that color, and we get to the sanded color. And now where it's left just a little bit, some of these can just be sanded out. This is, I just kind of left. Now, the bigger ones, that one I can feel a little lump. This one as well, right here, it's very not straight. And then up here, like it all came up, we're starting to get down the filler. So I thought I'd leave that and don't use another coat. The door, there's some really big whammos. So you can really see there. These are all low spots. That'll be a high spot because it's all coming through, followed by another low spot, and there's a little bit at the bottom here. This needs a little bit of love. But overall, not too bad. I'm sure it'll take 2 or 3 coats. So I'll get the filler on, we'll let that set up, and then we'll keep sanding. This line, I don't know how much I should worry about it. It's actually not terrible, so I might be able to get it just with a little bit of kind of filler and be ginger with it. And then I haven't done the wheel opening, but it actually looked pretty good and didn't feel too bad. That'll have to be done pretty much by hand. There's just a little bit right there I gotta deal with. So this side's much better. I feel my stress is not as bad. So, this is actually the second coat. I put one coat on, just got a little, the low spots filled, and then I went over very lightly. There's not much filler there, but over the entire section, so I can kind of feather it out. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it's the way I'm going to do it. I think the door will probably straighten out pretty easy on this this sanding. I'll probably hit it real quick with the orbital, and then I'll hit it with like a hand block, and it should be pretty good. Might need a few little spots here and there, but it might just be time to let it give it one more coat of high build, because that is where this is going to go. Once I do the bodywork the best I can, if I haven't said it yet, it will be in high build one more time. And then the fender will need a fair bit of screwing around. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do again. It's the old diminishing returns. At a certain point, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it any better. So I'm going to get as straight as I can and probably just put it in high build, and then my buddy can do that. That was my main issue, is both fenders. That's what I really want him to work on and make sure they look really good, because there's so many swooping lines on a 55 Chevy. Well, Tri-5s in general, but in this case, 55 Chevy. The doors are pretty flat, the quarters are pretty flat, the rockers have a bit of a curve, no big deal, and the roof's very flat. So that is where we're going to go. So I'm going to try and I am going to keep going. Hopefully get this finished off tonight, but it's boring. So it's been a couple of days since I've kind of been filming. I have been working away at the car. I got the fender and the door kind of straight-ish, as straight as I think I'm going to make it. The next step is putting some high build on this and then have my buddy Andrew come over and help me out. I did give the quarter a quick blocking. This one was actually really nice. There's a couple of low spots along the seam. Obviously that's where I kind of welded, so I'll have to go back and do that. But I'm thinking kind of this section will be one whole area I'll work on together. So I'm going to finish just kind of scuffing around the edges of the quarter. The door is pretty good. The rocker might need just a little scuff or whatever. But I think we're gonna go ahead and prime this with, I got some primer in the gun. Got a little bit left, so I'm gonna put that down, lay it on real quick. I'm not even gonna mask a whole lot because we're not gonna go into each little kind of crevice and stuff, but I wanna see what's all gonna look like up in here and whatnot, realizing there's trim and all that sort of stuff. But that's the goal. We're getting to probably 80% there. Jam on the tailgate next and the hood maybe, and then put another load of filler or high build on, sorry, and then see if my buddy wants to go over and he can kind of block it out and do whatever he can the best he can. I mean, it's been a lot of work, a lot of hours. I haven't been filming all of it because it's so freaking boring, but I want to get through it. So that's the plan. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna go over the edges real quick with this by hand, all these kind of round edges, and it's right down to bare metal. So there's nothing to worry about there. We'll load the gun, we'll blast it, and we'll call our day because Danny is making sloppy joes tonight. Okay, so I caught so much flack on the other side when I was using rattle cans as a primer. Everyone was freaking out. It was the wrong stuff, even though they told me it was the same paint. So I mixed them up on the gun, keep everyone happy, but I'm not going to mask anything. So right primer, no masking. Pick your battle, right? So we'll load this up and put her down. I feel like I've used a proper spray gun more in the last 3 or 4 weeks than I have my entire life. That fender does look a lot better. It's got pinholes and stuff in it, but we'll put another coat of this on, but that turned out really good. This door around here obviously is pretty bad on the bottom, so we'll see and right here it was crazy. Wow. When it's wet, you can kind of see, but it's got a little divot right there, but well, I'm like basically expert body guy now. The corner really doesn't need primer, but I scraped all that paint off, so we'll load it up. Time to put a little more paint in the gun. This should be ready to take some primer right away. I gotta say, this filler, or this primer, it's basically this filler, covers so much better than the stuff in the rattle can. It's one quick coat, and it's got a few little spots that bleed out at the bottom of the door, but that was a lot of filler. So we'll give her another blast, and then critique me in the comment section about how I'm doing a panel at a time, and wet edge, and fanning it, and Murr likes to give me a hard time, but I feel it's because he's just not here to do it himself. He asked me who was going to paint this thing. I said, I think I am. He's out of a job. Look at this go on. Man. I'm like a primer expert. Fun fact, this was supposed to be done yesterday, but got an emergency call. I had to go to Murr's house. His water froze. That's how cold it is here. The water line that goes into your house freezes. And it's March. Alright. Everyone keeps telling me that silver's gonna be hard to paint, but I can paint primer like it's no big deal. Let this set up and we'll finish off this video. Well, there you have it. Actually, I gotta admit, I could have, I ran out of paint. I was gonna do another coat, but the way she goes on the fender. So it came out, you know, pretty good. It's a little lumpy right there. I can feel it. Doesn't really show too much, and I think it's straight. This way I don't feel it, but this way you do. And my concern is I try and make it nice this way, then I'm gonna run into issues that way. I realize you gotta crisscross and all those things, but some of them skill over time issues. Door came out fantastic. I really think it looks good, and the quarters obviously just fine. So that's where we're gonna leave this video. I'm thinking it's coming around pretty good. I gotta pick up some more primer tomorrow. And then I think we might start on the hood. The hood really doesn't need that much. Like I said, it's actually nice the whole way around. The issue we are gonna run into is just back here where it was kind of buggered up. So we'll probably have to kind of push that down, hammer it down, and just make it look nice because it's high there. And we got to start working on the back. But I actually have a question for you guys before we end off this fantastic video. Been looking around like crazy at scissor lifts, like a mid-lift scissor lift that would fit under the car and you kind of lift on the frame or something like that. Obviously, a two-post lift is probably the best, maybe, you know, best bang for your buck, best all around, stuff like that. We have a height issue. So we got a little over 8 feet. Basically, if you take into factor what's up there with the wires and the lighting and stuff like that, we have 8 feet. I'm thinking taking down the electric motor because, I mean, let's be honest, this is cars aren't coming and going all the time. That thing gets in the way all the time. I'm always limited, even when I'm on jack stands with blocks, you're limited to where it is because of the operator. So I think I'm done with all that stuff. Now those lifts, the ones I was looking at, the problem you run into, obviously you can't get into the center, so transmissions aren't really that great, but they are centered in the car, so you can still get to the rear end, you can still get to the front end, so that's pretty happy. Transmission, drive shaft, floors, all those sort of things, not the greatest, so it's a compromise. They'll lift 48 inches. Obviously that's more than I would be able to lift. I do the math from the top of the roof of a Nomad, which I mean, Tri-5 Chevys, I'm sure Chevelles, Camaros, whatever I'm gonna be probably working on, probably have about the same height. I think I could probably raise it about 30 inches. Now the Nomad, for instance, the rockers are about 11 or so inches off the ground, 11, 12 inches, yeah, another 30. Now you're talking about 42, like let's say 40 to 44 inches off the ground. Well, that puts the rockers right about there. So now if I'm sitting down on my little chair, that's perfect for me. You know, my arm's kind of straight. That's where I'm going. So I'm thinking that might be the compromise to make. We have a bunch of Chinese ones. They're a couple $1,000. A name brand one's like $3,500, and they have a little kind of roll around cart and stuff like that for all hydraulic fluid. So I can accept that a 4-post or 2-post is the way to go, and they have all sorts of options, and there's all sorts of cool stuff out there. I am limited by height. There's not much more I can do without you know, structural stuff and all that. And honestly, I don't think that's really needed, because for the most part, I mean, most of the car I'm working on is the top half, just the bottom. So that's me rambling. But any of you guys out there who have used one or know of one or have any your 2 cents on them, I'd love to hear it before I purchase one. So let me know what you think. Is it worth the money? I hope it is, because I really do want one. I've kind of already sold myself on it. So either force me to pull these out or convince me to keep saving. But that's where we're at tonight. We'll see you in the next video tomorrow, where I'll start working on sanding and shaping.